Welcome to the introduction to Working Smarter for Mac Users, the course. Of course. My name is Bob, Dr. McLevitis, and the first thing I want you to know is that this course is all about you. Not me, you. How you can do more work in less time, how you can banish procrastination forever, how you can finish projects faster than you ever imagined. But while the rest of the course, everything after this first introduction and prelude, will be all about you, this first part is all about me. More specifically, I'm going to spend the next few minutes in this lesson and the next one convincing you that I'm the guy you want to teach you how to be more productive. Now, after this lesson and most of the next, I promise it's all about you. And I promise you're going to learn a ton of useful ways to do more work with less effort, from little adjustments to your Mac settings that make life easier to third-party apps that provide massive productivity improvements. But first, I got to give you some backstory, okay? It all started back in 1987 when I quit my job in advertising and became a full-time writer. My wife, bless her heart, was the only one who believed I had even half a chance to succeed. Everyone else thought it would be a miracle. My friends and family will gleefully tell you I'm the laziest person around. I'm a world-class procrastinator. I have the attention span of a gnat, and everyone who's ever talked to me for more than a minute will tell you my stream of consciousness rants usually jump from topic to topic like a hyperactive Super Bowl. I also have the annoying habit of changing the subject in the middle of a sentence, often for no good reason whatsoever. Now, I have to say that becoming self-employed was the best thing I ever did, best decision I ever made, but I quickly realized I was going to have to learn to lick that laziness and stop procrastinating, or at the very least, teach myself to procrastinate less. Luckily, everything worked out. I've written or co-written more than 80 books in the past 25 or 30 years, including hits like macOS Sierra for Dummies, iPhone for Dummies, iPad for Dummies, and this course's namesake, Working Smarter for Mac Users, to name just a few. And I've also written thousands, really, literally thousands of columns, reviews, and articles. Now, I'm not going to subject you to the long, rambling walk down memory lane that I originally wrote for the introduction. My editor said no. But since many of these long ago events had a profound influence on my life and my lifelong obsession with personal productivity, I've distilled everything in there into a pithy little top 10 list I like to call the 10 events that influenced my life and my obsession with personal productivity. Okay, number one. When I was a kid, everyone said I was a handful. My mother, my teachers, and at least a couple of principals. Mom called me her little perpetual motion machine and said I was the only 6-year-old who knows better than any adult. Notice she didn't say who thinks he knows better. Number two. My third grade teacher once wrote on a report card, Bobby will either joke his way into the White House or into prison. Nice. My parents, this is number three, my parents sent me to military school for 7th grade in a last-ditch effort to break my spirit and set me straight. That backfired, though, and I left Weiler Academy with a thick layer of newfound rebelliousness, non-existent impulse control, and an impossibly short attention span, just to mess with everyone's minds. I graduated with the most demerits ever awarded to a cadet in a single year. I was quite proud of that. And although I made the Commandant's honor roll for academic achievement, I was politely invited not to return. It's number four, I think. My issues with impulse control continued throughout high school. Here's an example. I once blew my nose on a teacher's tie while he was wearing it. And yes, that resulted in one of my many suspensions from school, and I'd like to apologize to Mr. Green if you're still alive. I'm so sorry I blew my nose in your tie. I had no impulse control. What can I say? Okay, number 5 or 6 or whatever. In high school and college, I got fired from more part-time jobs and more than I can even remember, and I quit more than that after disagreeing strongly with management about something. Number 6, despite items 1 through 5, I managed to graduate from Cal State Northridge in California with a BS in marketing. That was in 1977, and to this very day, I refer to that as my degree in BS. My BS degree. All right, after graduation, this is number 7, I busted my butt at a Los Angeles ad agency and market research firm for like 7 years. At that point, I had no idea what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I only knew that it wasn't being an ad man. So I somehow convinced my wife that one of those new Macintosh computers was going to allow me to make a lot more money while working a lot fewer hours. I was lying through my teeth. All I knew was that I didn't want to wear a tie or hate a boss for the rest of my life, or work in a cubicle. I didn't know if I was cut out for self-employment. I didn't know if I was cut out to work without adult supervision, but my wife, bless her heart, said okay and let me buy a Mac and quit my job. Unbelievable. All right. I think this is 9 after brief stints as a freelance typesetter, freelance market researcher, freelance takeout menu designer. I got hired to run this feisty little Mac magazine called The Macazine back in 1987. Then in 1989, I was approached by a publisher, Addison Wesley, to write my first book, a book I pitched as How to Become a Macintosh Power User. And it detailed the myriad ways I discovered to use a Macintosh, quote, better, faster, and more elegantly than other users. The publisher loved the book, hated the title, and when it came out, it was called Dr. Macintosh: Tips, Techniques, and Advice for Mastering Your Mac. I wasn't thrilled at the time, I seem to recall, but I've come to love it. Plus, it gave me the coolest nickname a guy who does what I do for a living could ask for: Dr. Mac. All right? Now, fast forward to the mid-90s. I'd sold a few more books. Some of you have to remember stupid Mac tricks. And I was making a comfortable living as a writer, but the problem was I was exhausted all the time. I was making it, but making it was killing me. And it felt like I never had time to do the things I loved, or hang out with my family, or play my guitar, or video games, or anything. Well, I played video games, but mostly. While I never missed a deadline, and I still haven't, I was irritable and had a short temper. I was frantic, sleep deprived. I was a mess. Then, one day, I read a book by a guy named Edward Hallowell. And it changed my life forever. I know people throw that phrase around carelessly, but I mean it. The book was called Driven to Distraction: Recognizing and Coping with Attention Deficit Disorder from Childhood Through Adulthood. Yes, that's correct. At age 40-something, I found out that I have ADD or ADHD, and that explained a lot about my lifelong issues with attention and impulse control and finishing things. As it turned out, I not only had ADD or ADHD, I have it in abundance, and I've had it since childhood. In fact, after my initial assessment, the shrink said to me, I said, "Do I have it?" He said, "You not only have it, you have so many ADHD markers, you could be the poster child for adult ADHD." I got to say, that rocked my world, but it also explained a boatload. And over the next few years, I've read everything I could find about ADD, ADHD, and why it's theorized that my brain chemistry is different from other folks. After a lot of therapy, both individual and group, I realized that if I was ever going to become more productive, I was going to have to retrain my brain. Now, I knew that I needed to take action to compensate for the short attention span, the difficulty focusing, the propensity to procrastinate, say that 3 times fast. So I read more. I read books about how to prosper with your ADD, how to prosper in spite of ADD, books on personal productivity, books on time management, even though I don't think there's any such thing, and books on avoiding procrastination, and that's just to name a few. Now I'll tell you what stood out for me. And that was that most of them had no advice for computer users, much less for a Mac user. Discussions of essential time management tools and techniques, which arguably are better suited to a computer than pen and paper, things like your to-do list, calendar, journal. The advice either ignored computers completely or addressed them in a throwaway paragraph or two. And that's why I felt I had to create this course. And while I may have had to create it, I want you to know that it's very different from the 80 other tech books I've written. See, this isn't a computer course. That's not a computer book. This isn't a Mac course, that's not a Mac book. It's a course and a book about improving your personal productivity and avoiding procrastination, written for people who spend most of their day in front of a Mac. Okay, let me leave you with this one. It took me the better part of 30 years to figure out all of the things that I do to do more work in less time, banish procrastination, and have more time for the things I love. Here's my promise to you. I promise I can show you in however long it takes you to finish this course. Now, one more thing. Before we dive into the meaty, beefy stuff in section 1, we have a bit more business to attend to. In the other lesson in this introductory section, I call it the Prelude, and it offers a roadmap to where we're going, what we'll be doing, and a whole lot more. So, onward.